Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show. And Tim's making, for the audio people, Tim is making faces at me, and I'm struggling to keep my mind on the task at hand because of his face.
I have a nervous tick, and I would appreciate it if you don't call attention to it. Thank you very much. A little sensitive about it.
Yeah, your face will be getting way more sensitive if you keep that up.
Okay, what?
Because I'll hit it really hard, then I'll be sensitive, Tim. Keep up. So, we talk about horror movies on this show, and one of the things we've been doing, for some reason last October, we started like 4 franchises. Now, to be fair, 2 of them were because they won votes for the month, and then we said, oh, we have to do the sequels now. So, one of the franchises we've been working through over the past several months is the Howling. We did the first one in October, we did 2, we did 3. This is going to be the Howling 4, the original Nightmare, which came out in 1988. The title makes it sound like it's a prequel. It might be a prequel. I don't know if it matters, if there's nothing in it that connects it to anything, so who knows? So that we're going to talk about Howling 4. We'll start spoiler free. If you do happen to care about spoilers for the Howling 4, we'll give you a warning somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers, and that's what we're going to do. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, great.
A little different than what we usually do, but I'm game.
Listen, that's a joke that if this is your first episode, if for some reason Howling 4 is the one that you found us with, you're like, oh no, I found these 2 idiots on the internet who talk about horror movies.
There's a lot of howlheads are going to come out for this episode.
But not for 1, 2, or 3. For 4.
A true howlhead start.
They don't care. They don't care about Christopher Lee. They don't care about the marsupials, but they care about Howling 4, the original Nightmare.
Yeah.
All right, just checking, just making sure we're clear on this. So, what is the Howling 4?
I can help you out with this. I actually have like a perfect plot summary.
Go on.
All right. So starts with this author. She moves into a cabin in the middle of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then 80 minutes later, the director remembered that it's supposed to be a werewolf movie. And that's about it.
Well, if that doesn't suggest what Tim's feelings on this might be, Tim, did you enjoy Howling 4, the original Nightmare?
It's a shame because obviously, yeah, I didn't like it. And it was just really, really boring. And the thing that sucks is like there's no potential for a good movie here. However, there were like little glimpses of stuff that was so bad that I kind of thought, all right, this might be a little fun. Like, well, yeah,
that's the thing. Watching this movie and thinking about 2 and 3 are bad movies, but 2 and 3 are silly bad. There's some things in 2 and 3 you can laugh at. The whole marsupials concept you can laugh at. Red Brown in Howling 2, that song that keeps playing, Christopher Lee, the fact that they're basically treating them like vampires. There's so much in that to talk about. This one, it is an odd rehash of the first movie with the woman's stressed, she has to go to a cabin to get away. It turns out the entire town's full of werewolves. This is a movie.
But yeah, you don't really actually. I mean, very minor spoiler alert, I guess.
Early, Tim, come on.
It's a very, very minor one, but really, you don't see any werewolves until last 15 minutes, maybe.
That's being generous. 10.
And it's like it's almost as if like they thought, the movie is called The Howling. We don't have to actually have werewolves. We can just have howling, because you hear howling throughout the whole movie.
There's a lot more howling. This is definitely a lot more howling than any of the previous films in the franchise. I have to give it credit where credit is due.
It's so weird that they insist on making this a franchise, but it feels like every movie just hates werewolves. Like the second movie was like practically vampires. Like it was much more vampire than it was werewolf. The third movie was marsupials, which, I hate to break it to you, people, marsupials are not wolves.
What, Tim? What?
And then, like, this movie, you get more ghost nuns than you do actual werewolves, which I love me some ghost nuts. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I'm kind of here for the wolves, you know.
I mean, honestly, as soon as the movie started, it's a very incomprehensible beginning because we have this scene that turns out to be a nightmare sequence, but the way it's shot and edited,
The original nightmare.
it's the original nightmare. And she wakes up, and I'm like, is she in a mental hospital? She's not in a mental hospital. She's just at a hospital. And it's like, oh, you should take her away somewhere peaceful and quiet so she can get over this. I'm like, this is the first movie again because, you know, except in the first movie, we had Dee Wallace go through this ordeal of encountering this serial killer to give her the stress that required the getaway, the retreat for relaxation.
Yeah, that's what I didn't get. Like, they're acting like, you know, something's wrong. Like, she really, you know, needs to get away. But it's like, why? Like, what? We know absolutely nothing about this person. I think, like, halfway through the movie, it dawned on me that she's, like, a famous author. Like, at some point, you know, people just start, like, going, like, hey, you're that famous author, huh? I was like, oh, I guess she is.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's baffling to me. And the first thing that really struck out to me was how bad the acting was and how bad the dubbing even was on top of that. It was like, it was bad dialogue with bad dubbing from bad performances. It was really, it was the whole shebang.
I wasn't sure if this was a foreign film because it's like every voice is dubbed over. I didn't understand. I was like, oh wait, did they like film this somewhere else?
It honestly, I mean, actually, the shooting location was South Africa, I believe, but it's a US movie. It's a US funded movie with, you know, so I don't know if they used like South African actors and then dubbed them with American accents. I'm not sure what they're going with here.
Maybe.
But here's the thing, right? I see how bad the acting is. There's a couple of really cheesy lines of dialogue early on. I'm thinking, oh, maybe we'll get some of the, you know, the room-like qualities out of this. Maybe, and there's one or two really stupid lines here or there. So at one point, you know, because she goes to the retreat with her husband, and her husband, they've had a dinner, and he's horny and wants to have sex. He's like, you coming up? And she says, oh, I think I'll finish the dishes first. And then he hits back with, oh, now I see why paper plates were invented. And then walks up the stairs. And I'm like, if there was more of that, I might have had more fun with this as a bad, silly movie. Instead, it is tediously boring.
I'm in the same exact page. Like, it kind of sets you up for, especially and there's like this really like kind of like funky 80s song in the beginning that you're like, all right, like this might be kind of stupid fun. But yeah, real quickly it gets super boring and it's just hitting beats on the first movie, but it's also, again, like you said, it's weird. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a remake or what.
Yeah, because right down to the fact that the husband is kind of seduced by the sexy woman who happens to be a werewolf. Well, that's the exact same plot beat out of the first movie. It's here again.
And like, also, I keep trying to think. Okay, so if it's not a remake, like if it is in line with, you know, the other three movies, that would also mean that there's been not one but two filmed instances of like famous people turning into werewolves. so I kept trying to think like, okay, so does this exist in a world where people just know werewolves exist? Because that has happened twice on TV.
I don't think so.
In front of large audiences.
Like, in the second movie, they claim it is in continuity with the first one because it's meant to be the, you know, her brother from the, you know, the woman from the first movie. It's her brother that's in the second movie.
Yeah,
but the third movie seems to have nothing to do. It's like it's the fresh start.
Yeah,
and then this one, I mean, technically, if this is a prequel, then it would be before all these on-camera werewolf appearances.
Oh, okay.
So they've kind of got you there.
All right.
Right, they kind of do. And then we have one of the most obviously and like bizarrely written love triangles in the history of cinema, where so she's got her husband, and then you've got our agent, I think it is, who drives her up there. He's dropping lines as they're driving up. He's like, "Hey, so what's happening once you get up there?" And he's like, "Oh, well, my husband's going to have to drive back to LA every couple of days for his job. He's trying to get this new job." He's like, "Well, do you want some company while he's gone?" It's like, don't be silly. You'll make me right all the time. And I'm like, that was not like, no. That was just full on, let's have sex when your husband's not there. And then when they arrive at the cabin, right, the husband's already there. He's like, oh, hey, what are the names? Let me get the names here. Yeah, so these are Richard and Tom. Which one's which? I can't remember. But
They're so distinctive.
these
Such
distinctive
like
characters.
distinct characters.
And he's like, but as soon as they arrive, he's looking at the agent, and the husband's like, "Oh, hey, you're here. What a nice surprise." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll have to get going now. I won't have a drink." And he's like, "Yeah, that's too bad. You'll have to get going." And the wife's like, "Oh no, he can stay the night. Sure, right? There's plenty of room here, and you can drive back in the morning." He's like, "No, but he has to go, don't you? You must be get going." And I'm like, this isn't even like subtext. This isn't even like tension with it that you could cut with a knife. This is just flat out they're staring at each other hatefully, like saying things like, "No, you must get going," like clearly wanting to kill each other over this woman, and she's just like oblivious, like, "Oh, but you must stay. Like, why not?"
Which like, and you could have done something with that, with like having like maybe you have the husband be very like meek and the agent very like alpha male, but then like the husband turns into starts turning into a werewolf and gets like much more protective and jealous and dominant and stuff. Like you could have done something like that, but no, just like from the beginning it's just both like alpha male like fight over a woman, go.
Also, full spoilers from this point on, just so I can talk freely. So full spoilers. But that's the thing. He does get turned into a werewolf, but it's not until the last like 10 minutes. So even that doesn't work because he's still just him for like the majority of the movie. And there's no like as this movie goes in a circle. This is the formula to this movie. They're up at night or they're sleeping at night, and there's some howling outside. The wife gets scared. Says that there's something outside hunting her. She sees it in her dreams. He's like, "Don't be silly. You're here to relax. Stop thinking about this nonsense." And then it keeps happening, and then eventually we introduce this other character, this Janice, was like also a nun, and she was with the nun that we saw in the nightmare at the start of the movie. That nun that was in the nightmare, she came to this town years ago, was found wandering, delirious, and eventually just died after they found her. And it's something to do with the werewolves and the big bell in town and stuff. Something evil, Satan, they're demons. That's the one difference in this, is that the werewolves are actually something to do with demons and Satan.
Yeah.
So that's your one difference.
All right. So I do kind of like when they mix up like they have like different paranormal elements. So I do like the fact that it's not just werewolves. You're also getting like kind of like these weird like ghost nun stuff, and then there ends up being some occult Satan stuff. Like I do like that, but again, it's just like handled so poorly in this movie. Like it doesn't really feel like there's ever like much cohesion between like the different like little plot lines or anything. It's just kind of like, okay, so I guess now we're doing a ghost thing, and
basically the movie is like Janice and the main character Marie. Them going around town investigating people, all of whom are acting suspicious anytime anyone brings up that there might be a wolf or a howling or anything. And they're like, "Oh no, don't be silly now." And then also we've got the trope of the town sheriff, who is the most antagonistic piece of shit. Like he just stares as like, "What are you doing in my town? Oh, best be going then." Like just like never. Like, he's suspicious and antagonistic the entire time. And then like, everyone else, like, they just like sort of clam up whenever anyone mentions, "Oh, there might be wolves or there might be something dangerous in the woods." Like, "Oh no, don't be silly. That's just coyotes." That's just like it's the same thing over and over again. And we go through this ritual of she gets scared at night. Husband's like, "No, shut up, enough of this, woman." And then
let's have sex.
Let's have sex. In fact, there's like 3 sex scenes that go on for quite a while in this for some reason.
Like they all seem like very similar though. Like I think it was like the second one. I was like, is this just the first scene, like sex scene again?
It kind of feels like it. I don't like. I don't know. It really feels like they got the rights to the name, right? To the Howling.
You just picture like some excited intern just like running into the movie offices. "We got it. We got Howling," and people are just like, "What?" That marsupial movie.
They threw maybe like a couple $1,000s at it, and this is them stretching the budget because there's hard, like you say, you see nothing Like even when there is something where like, you're supposed to see something, like it cuts away so quickly that you physically can't take any of it in.
Yeah,
It's not until the last like 10 minutes where it finally does some stuff. And there is one moment I actually quite like towards the end. It's the doctor character who like his face is already like sort of gotten big like the wolf, but he still got his skin over it, and he actually rips it away. I actually kind of like that as a visual. That was kind of creepy.
I would say like the whole last 10 minutes or whatever, like it's pretty batshit crazy, but I kind of liked it. Like there was some like cool special effects and like some, I guess, kind of cool like occult imagery stuff.
It felt too quick to me though, because it just sort of quickly wraps up really hastily. Like there's no suspense or build up to things. It's just, and also apparently in this movie, now the werewolves, like when you transform, you completely melt like down to your skeleton and then melt into a pool, and then the wolf rises up out of the pool of gunk that was your body.
You know, I feel like this last like 10 minutes or whatever feels like it could have been a really kick-ass start of a new movie. Like if this was like the first 10 minutes of like a movie, I'd be like, holy shit, like buckle up, what is going on? But instead with this it's just like, wait, what? And then credits, you're like, oh.
Because here's the thing, you get to about the 70-minute mark, right? And that's when the husband goes with the sexy werewolf lady and has sex in the woods and gets bit. And I'm like, okay, now the movie's going to gear up. The final 20 minutes are going to get going. And then he comes back, and then it turns into, no. Him and the doctor convince her that she's imagined that he was attacked, and he just fell down the stairs. And we're back to people not believing her, and we're going round in circles again. Oh, let's investigate it with Janice a little bit. Let's go back to the house. Let's do it. And then again, it's not until the final 10 minutes where he properly turns, and all the townsfolk suddenly turn, and we end up killing all the werewolves in the bell tower by ringing the bell tower, luring them all to the bell tower, which, by the way, there were some shots at the end when they're ringing the bell to like lure them all to the tower. There were shots where it was literally just like a pack of dogs that filmed running up the stairs. Yeah. Like they weren't like wolves, they weren't special effects. They got actual just dogs with dark fur to just run up the stairs. That was the shots.
I'm sure it was a very fun day on set. I mean, all the dogs around, you play around and stuff, but yeah, it did not look good.
It was baffling to me. It was just like, no, you're not getting away with this. Like, I don't care how crappy the image quality of this is, because shocking surprise, no one's really maintained, a nice transfer. I mean, at least if there is like a remastered Blu-ray, we did not come across it when we were looking for it. So
I'm trying to think that maybe, if anything, there's maybe like a box set or something that maybe has this in, but I don't think it's Blu-ray, and the quality's not there.
No, it's rough as shit looking. But even through all that, you're not getting away with this. Just having dogs run up the stairs.
Yeah.
No. And then the thing blows up, and we end with like a wolf jumping out of the fire at her again. Cut so quickly you can barely see what's happening. It just feels stilted and wrong and off, and it's meant to like harken back to the original nightmare at the start of the film. See what I did there? Where like that's the vision she had, except it happened so quick in that nightmare that I didn't even like clock what was happening in it at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
She's in the nightmare. She's like at a mall. She sits down for lunch with her agent, and then she just looks over and there's like a furnace, and she gets scared, and then she wakes up, and that's like, I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You conveyed no information to me in that section. Of course, that was after she saw like the nun in the elevator at one point, and then the nun disappeared.
Oh yeah.
That was the opening to the movie. Is we had a nun disappear.
The one good thing I'll say about it is that seeing like all the stuff like the nun and the church bell and stuff, it did remind me of a really kick-ass Hellboy story called The Wolves of St. Augustine. That is just a really, really good comic stuff right there. So that was pretty cool. Watching this movie, I was like, oh yeah, I should reread that comic book.
So just to bring this back around to the acting a little bit, because the husband, he's got this kind of like he's got this sort of not quite a mullet, but it's kind of Mel Gibson 80s hair with the stubble, right? And he, like, I feel like he was the worst of the actors. They're all pretty bad, but he was the worst of them because he would get like angry and he would have these awkward pauses after his lines or before his lines that would make it just feel kind of stilted and.
Well, I mean, it's so hard to judge the acting when everything is like dubbed. It's
That's true.
it's gonna.
That's true.
But,
Although, I'm half convinced though that half of them are dubbed with a real voice, but they just haven't matched it properly, so it looks wrong.
I mean, honestly, like I can't even. I'm trying to picture in my head, and I cannot differentiate the husband from the agent. I think they just blur into like one like.
Oh well, no,
man.
Basically I could tell them apart because the husband, like I say, had the sort of the longer hair with the stubble, and then the agent had blonde hair that was short. That was the defining factor.
Yeah, I mean, like they definitely look different, but like I don't know, I feel like character-wise, personality-wise, though, they were just like, oh
sure,
what's different about these two men?
And also, it's worth mentioning,
one's a werewolf.
the whole love triangle thing never actually amounts to anything. Like, there's one scene where the agent's about to like hug her, and it looks like he's about to go in for a kiss from behind, but he never really gets very far. And the husband just like sees this and runs in and punches him, and says, "Ah, you son of a bitch!" And that's all it amounts to. And like Marie literally shouts out, "Oh, he didn't mean anything by that. He was literally putting his hands around her waist and getting in for a kiss from behind." Like that was what he was doing. Like, he didn't mean anything but that. Like, she's so oblivious. Like, it's actually. It's got that trope where all the women characters are just like these like constantly screaming, can't defend themselves, like have no agency. Oh, the big muscly man must come save me. It's got all the usual sexist tropes you expect from your shitty low budget horror, but like turned up to 11. They're all there.
And then even like the crazy werewolf lady, like hopefully you think like hopefully maybe she can be like really this kick-ass werewolf lady, but yeah, all she is really there for is like to be sexy, seduce person.
And the sex scene with her and the husband goes on a long time, like really long.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess they're like, oh, he's got stamina. We have to let the audience know he's got stamina, although otherwise they won't buy him as a werewolf threat. That's the important part here, right?
That would be like super funny if they like set it up like it's gonna be this really intimate love scene and he just like premature ejaculates in like 2 seconds. It's just like like rolls over and falls asleep.
And she's just like left there like, well, I have to get animalistic for this whole werewolf thing to get going here, man. Come on.
So I guess I'll still turn him into a werewolf, but they eat a rabbit at one point.
They do. Her little dog goes missing and turns up dead.
Oh yeah, that was sad. I didn't like that.
Yeah. That's
also it's kind of like, hey, screw you for like just letting this dog run around. Like it's like you're in the middle of the woods. Like, what do you think was gonna happen?
Also, the shot where you actually see the dog when she sees the body of it, that was one of those shots where it was so quick. I actually didn't know what she looked at. It was so quick that I didn't register that she was looking at a dog that was dead.
Yeah, it was surprisingly this movie did something that wasn't greatly executed.
Yeah, shocking, Tim, shocking. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's just there to kill time. Like this other random couple who are like from a camper, kind of like
the hitchhikers.
Yeah, the hitchhikers. Like the wife is kind of hurt, so they end up.
I guess they weren't hitchhikers; they were campers. But...
Yeah, but they stop in, and Marie like patches her up, and they hear some of the stories about the bell in the tower because like, oh, I'm here because of the bell. Like I'm a big history aficionado, and the people died, and there was a whole thing, and I'm like, okay, thanks for the exposition. Go off and die like the red shirts you are. And sure enough, the very next scene they get killed. But of course, you don't see anything. You see them looking at things. You don't actually see any wolves attacking.
And to be fair, like there's plenty of like interesting, compelling, creepy ways that like other horror directors have had like death scenes or monsters and stuff where you don't see it, but
they work because they have suspense and they have build up to the conclusion.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say like they're able to like portray suspense and tension and everything. This it's just like there's no like artistry to it whatsoever.
Cheesy
And,
horror movie music, couple of cuts, and that's it.
yeah, and again, if you did go over the top and made it really zany and crazy, this could have been like a fun bad movie, which like the other ones, like 2 and 3, weren't good movies, but I would gladly watch those again because they were so batshit crazy that I was like, yeah, this might be fun to watch with a friend.
Yeah, do you remember Christopher Lee on those funky 80s sunglasses? Or, I mean, again, marsupials, like,
yeah,
like just those things to them. Howling 4 has nothing, has no charm, has no likable characters, barely has characters. There's like no wolves for like 82 minutes of the 90-minute runtime, and then when you do get them, like for some reason people melt and then reform as werewolves, and like it ends really quickly. But most importantly, the first 80-something minutes are just tediously boring,
so
where
boring.
it goes in circles and there's no energy to any scenes, and it's just like, because I mean, you give it the benefit of the doubt for a little bit because you're like, okay, right, so there was a couple of funny lines of dialogue, now it's kind of boring, but I'll let it pick back up again. And then you realise you're 60 minutes in and it's done nothing in like 40 minutes, and you're like, oh my god, do something, do anything.
Yeah. That's like the worst one, like when you're like starting to get really bored and then you look at like the how much time is left and you're like, my god, there's still 50 minutes of this. No.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's 90 minutes long, but it feels like 900. It really does.
Jesus.
So I have nothing kind to say about this, really. One or two goofy lines of dialogue, but that is like not enough to say.
I mean, it's not like the best effects, but I did like the special effects at the end. Like the guy melting, like did look cool. And
yeah, sure, no, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but again, it's so little,
Yeah, I like that. I did kind of like I said, the doctor character who already had the shape of the werewolf head, but his skin was over the top of it, so he was still talking, and then he ripped it, like almost like a Superman shirt rip at the front with the mouth.
Oh yeah, well that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it didn't look the best because the skin looked really fake, but like it was an interesting B movie visual.
It was like really weird looking at it at first because I kept staring at it and saying like, okay, I don't, is something wrong with my vision, or is that guy, his head looks really big, like it looks like do you remember in like I feel like a lot of times I'd have this in like Nintendo 64 or like PlayStation games where you'd have a cheat code, it would be like big head mode where just like it would give characters big heads.
Yeah, that was a big thing in the 90s. For some reason, that completely went away once we hit the 2000s, which is bizarre because nowadays that'd be like a DLC. Pay $5 to get the big head mode unlocked.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. I never really thought about it, but like DLC is just kind of like cheat codes. Yeah, it's just
they are. The best example is Metal Gear Solid. Like every Metal Gear, like 1, 2, 3, 4. When you beat the game, you unlocked a tuxedo for Snake to play as. And no, I'm not a fan of this series. I just happen to know this, right? Metal Gear Solid 5. Got to pay for that $5 DLC. Get your tuxedo.
So annoying. I hate it.
Yeah. On the upside, Tim, at least 2 countries have now outlawed loot boxes.
Oh, cool.
So that might cause some changes in how they operate them. If it keeps happening, if more countries keep sort of being like, you know what, no, we're not okay with this. Anyways, that was a tangent to go down. Werewolves, Howling 4.
Ooh. Yeah. This was a movie, I guess.
Barely. I don't even know why I give it that distinction.
So how does this make you feel going forward? Because I feel like we still have 8 more Howling movies to go.
That's a good question. How many? We got Howling 5 Rebirth, obviously next.
Of course, because we had the new 52 now.
Yeah, exactly. That was a comic book joke that no one who doesn't read comics is going to get that, but that's cool. Then we have Howling 6 The Freaks.
Ooh, okay.
Interestingly, Rebirth was just 1 year after this, and then Howling 6 The Freaks is 1991.
Jesus.
And then what comes after that? Howling New Moon Rising from 1995, I think, is the 7th.
Okay.
And then I think the Howling Reborn is the 8th, which was 2011.
Jesus.
I know, right?
Also, okay, I don't think you can have one movie called Rebirth and another movie called Reborn. 'Cause that's not
That's bullshit.
it's a little much.
I do know that the 8th one, I think that's like a Twilight like knockoff.
Jeez.
But in the Howling universe, well, I say universe, it's a Howling name. I don't know if it's in the universe. I mean, hell,
Like,
3 and 4 aren't in the universe, so why should 8 be?
it's you know this is like supposedly a franchise, but it's like like what as a franchise like binds it together?
There's
Because
no, it's nothing. That's the thing. It's not a franchise. All this is that someone keeps getting the rights to call their movie The Howling something.
Yeah.
So they keep just doing it, and nothing connects it at all. And because I think there's other franchises that are also guilty of that, but they at least try to make it feel a bit more like, okay, there's no characters from the past movies, but we'll try and make it feel like it's still part of the how that movie worked, right? Whereas this, I mean, arguably, I suppose this one's the most sequely, and it is just kind of a shitty remake of the first one.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean,
guess
this one kind of is. 2 and 3 weren't. And the Twilight one, I'm sure, won't be, but, I mean, who knows about 5, Rebirth? I don't know.
Well, be interesting to find out.
Interestingly, the 5th one, a group of strangers visit an ancient Hungarian castle and bring along a werewolf. And they bring along a werewolf? They don't encounter a werewolf, they bring along a werewolf. That's an interesting twist in this formula.
All the people in the castle are like normal.
Yeah. They bring the werewolf to the town.
Interesting. Okay.
That could be interesting. Obviously, we won't be doing that as the next episode, but when we get back to the Howling franchise, we've been kind of rotating through all these franchises as we go. That'll be the next one we do is number 5. But I guess this has been number 4. I don't think I've got a lot more to add about it. It is just complete. It's complete garbage. Acting's bad, horrible dubbing, rehashed plot of the first one is painfully boring. Is the most worrying thing, and then everything that happens in the last 10 minutes happens far too quick. So, yeah, very very little, if nothing, to say about it in the positive light, which I guess leads to asking Tim what he would rate it out of 10.
Well, yeah, man, I'm gonna have to go pretty low here, because like usually you try to find like positives in a movie. Like even if you don't like something, you can be like, well, this was done well, blah blah blah. But like just being boring is like the most like number one sin you can commit. And
the cardinal sin, you might say.
Yeah. So it's like it's hard to find, like, even if there was something that was done well, it's hard because everything's so boring. I feel like it just brings everything down. And so I think I'm gonna have to give it a 2.5. I think the 0.5 being like the for a little bit, for again the ending sequence, like I liked the effects and stuff, I thought looked cool, but again it's like even if it was like 2.5% of the movie, I guess it'd be 25%, but like even that little time frame, it doesn't equal that much. But
yeah, I'm going slightly lower. In fact, I'm going with a straight 2 out of 10. Straight 2 out of 10. As often when I give like a 2 or a 3, my argument for giving it a 2 or 3 is just basically it's not as bad as like something else that I've given a 1. So I can't go quite as harsh. And there was like that one funny line, there was like that one decent little effect, and and it still, for as awful as it is, it still functions structurally as a movie for the most part. Because I was expecting even more of a train wreck after the first scene, because the first scene is like absolute garbage in terms of like how it's constructed and put together, and the editing is really bad. After that, it just kind of gets mundane and bad in a sort of boring way, whereas it wasn't like the outright, because and let's be honest, I probably would have enjoyed the insanity more if it was just insane all over the place, like for the rest of it. But it wasn't. It was like, no, here's a rehash of the first movie in the most tedious, mind-numbing way possible, with characters you don't give a shit about and you want them all to die. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
So Howling 4, the original nightmare. It's not the original nightmare, but it is a nightmare. So There you go. That's Howling 4.
It's been a while since we did like a really big piece of shit.
It has. Admittedly, we kind of dodged a weird bullet by not seeing Truth or Dare in the theaters. That said, I have promised to the legions of fans that we will do it when it hits home video. So, so you can look forward to that in a few months' time.
Oh.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Tim? You want to give?
Nope.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We're recording this one a little bit in advance of when it'll go up. Not like a super amount of time, just like a week or so. But the reason I'm saying that is because by the time this goes up, the Patreon vote for the month of April for the movie we'll do in May will have finished. So there'll be a winner to that. I don't know what it is yet because we're recording this early. And the new vote.
But I know.
How? But the new vote of 4 movies for the month of May, for the one we'll do in June, will be up by the time this goes up, I think, if my dates are in my head are lining up. So go out and check out the new vote for your patron. If you're not a patron, then go check out patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You get to vote in on an episode once per month, and you get to submit movies to the Crypt, which is a user-submitted list of movies that every so often we'll pick one from and do, or we'll put 4 of them in a vote, maybe 1 month for patrons. So you can check out that stuff. And if you got any ideas for other bonuses and perks we can do, we're willing to consider them and maybe think of them and put them in action. Yes, Tim?
Sorry. I was just thinking it's kind of weird that like if you're a felon, like you can't vote in like political elections, but you could vote on our Patreon if you wanted.
Hey, if you pay us, you can vote. I don't discriminate. I think to have a Patreon account, you have to be over a certain age. So I guess we're discriminating against children, but that's okay because they're actually awful.
Yeah. It's true.
You don't want a 12-year-old voting for what horror movie we talk about. Come on.
Ugh.
That'll just skew things.
Just make us watch some like a Logan Paul video or something. Then that's
that's
stupid guy. Okay.
Yeah, he's the one who did the suicide thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be calling out our competition, but.
How's your just because he's on YouTube doesn't make him competition? Other horror movie shows are competition.
Like a American Horror Story.
Oh god. Sure, Tim. American Horror Story. Yes, they're competition. Oh god, I don't like that show.
Okay.
Just for the record. The 2 episode ones that I've tried from it, season 1 and not 6, 5. I think it was season 1 and 5. I thought were both sucky.
And I watch it, but I know it's like trash. Like it's super trashy, but I think in kind of a fun way.
I think in terms of Ryan, what's his name? Ryan Murphy. Yeah. In terms of his trashy shows, Scream Queens is the good one.
Yeah, that's true.
I like Scream Queens a lot. So
it's definitely the best.
That's a good witty black comedy with tons of horror movie references and trappings and cliches in it, intentionally so. And Chad Radwell might be the best movie character of all time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Actually, no. I mean, all the Chanels are great as well.
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
It was so hard like watching Last Jedi with one of the Chanels in it. Like I couldn't not.
Oh yeah, Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Yeah, I could not see not see.
That's why in Scream Queens she had the earmuffs. It was a Leia reference. That's true. Yeah. She had more lines in Last Jedi and stuff. So yeah, she was more prominent, but she was in Force Awakens as well.
Yeah.
And also there's a running joke in Scream Queens where Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, right? And anytime the serial killer tries to attack her, she always survives. Like she always is able to fight back because the joke being she was actually in Halloween and shit. So therefore she's really good at this.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Speaking of, the buzz from CinemaCon, they got footage of the new Halloween today or yesterday, and the buzz from people who have seen it is quite positive.
Yeah, so I think, does that mean we're getting a trailer soon? That's what it kind of sounded like.
I think they showed a trailer, or they at least showed a clip at CinemaCon. Given it's out in October, I would expect a trailer by like June.
Okay.
Maybe earlier, but that's when I'd say we'd definitely have one by.
Yeah, I feel like normally like with horror movies you don't usually get trailers like super far in advance, but I feel like this is such a big one that's getting a lot of buzz that I wouldn't be surprised for an earlier trailer.
But that is us. That screams after midnight. So let us know what you thought of the movie. If you're fortunate enough to have seen it, let us know in the comments below what you think.
Yeah. If
like,
you're a howlhead, let your presence be known.
If you're a howlhead, yes. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. We mentioned Patreon. But otherwise, that is us. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time. And if I could howl, I would totally do it right now.